In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking a little Cubs, a little Sox, a little Bears, and a little Blackhawks. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season has ended, but that shouldn't stop you from heading on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, my friend, how are you doing on this beautiful holiday weekend?
I am doing just splendid, thank you. Yesterday was a fun day with friends. Today was also a fun day. And fair warning, Cubs fans, tomorrow I'm going to be at the game.
Oh, God.
So, yeah.
Ha!
And because you know who they're playing?
Rockies.
Yeah, who are like 9 and 44. And that is just screaming they're going to lose tomorrow when I'm in attendance.
Uh, yeah, I mean, at least we have Tyone pitching, so hopefully that's a good thing.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm just hoping for the best. I'm tired of going to all these games and seeing them lose.
I kind of want to start with the Blackhawks here.
Yes, yes, big news.
Yeah, so we've got some big news here with the Blackhawks, and um and they've now hired officially a new head coach, Jeff Blashill, who was former head coach of the Detroit Red Wings, and he's been the Lightning's assistant coach for the last couple of seasons. So he's officially the guy now. He's assembling his staff, and we're this is where we are.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts here?
So, my overall thought is I don't love it. I'm not pumped about it. I'm also not writing it off. I'm not saying this is a terrible hire, all is lost. I'm just very about this right now. And I think there is a reality that the pool of possible coaches it wasn't very deep for who was out there and who would come to the Blackhawks. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm in a similar boat. So it's hard to judge this because I don't know what the realistic pool of candidates was. I mean, really, we know that it was the University of Denver head coach and Jeff Blashill.
Well,
That's
and yeah,
like we didn't get a lot of rumblings of people interviewing. We don't know what could have been.
right. And here's the thing. The guy from Denver, I really think was using the NHL to leverage more money. And he got it. He got it. He went back to Denver where he knows everything, the ins and outs, where he's been comfortable, and he gets a little more money out of it. So that's not really surprising there. And a guy like Mike Sullivan, well, he's going to go to a team that's more likely to win next year than the Blackhawks. There was rumors about John Cooper. He's staying in Tampa Bay. So that was out. You're not going to hire John Tortorella. You probably weren't going to hire Pete Laviolette. Like the old heads were not going to come here that were available. They just weren't. Like, do you really think Pete Laviolette was going to come here and coach a team that's rebuilding? I don't think
No.
so. I don't think so. So
I
I
I,
think the pickings were slim.
I really wanted Jay Woodcroft, the former Oilers coach.
Hmm.
That's the guy I wanted. And I have a friend that's a diehard Oilers fan. I was texting him about it, and he's like, I think that would be a fantastic hire. He's like, I really do. And he's like, he didn't get a fair shake in uh, with the Oilers, and he's like, I think that would have been a home run hire for you guys, and I didn't even hear any rumblings at all about that. And maybe things were just really kept really tight to the vest. I don't know, but um, we didn't hear a lot of rumblings. And I don't think we ever officially heard anything from the Blackhawks about the University of Denver's head coach. Like he just announced that he was out of the running, so we assumed that he must have been in the running to be take himself out of it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, obviously there were phone calls, there was discussions had, whether it was with him directly or behind the scenes, as him as an option. But what you've noticed too is that possibilities for the Blackhawks, they kind of wrapped up their other alternative destinations or returns in this case pretty quickly. Like it was very quick after the Lightning were eliminated that John Cooper was going back. Mike Sullivan was hired by the Rangers almost right away. And then the guy from Denver, he went back pretty quickly. So there are teams out there looking for coaches, and they're all kind of in different well, not all of them, but like the Ducks who hired Q, they're in a similar spot. They're rebuilding like us, but the Rangers, they missed the playoffs, but they're looking to contend next year. Obviously, the Penguins are kind of in limbo right now, but they're not really in the same roster position as the Blackhawks. So, there was varying degrees of situations in the NHL, and I saw a take online, and the take was basically, why not have Anders Sorensen another year and possibly hire from a better pool next year? Well, listen, you never know what the pool is going to look like. Because the dynamics of NHL coaching is crazy. You have how many guys that have been coaches for years, that have extensive resumes. They've either won a lot in terms of regular season, or they won a lot and won Stanley Cups. At least have made a number of playoff runs with multiple teams. Like Pete DeBoer with the Stars. He's been around a long time. You have Joel Quenneville. Obviously, there's very different circumstances with that, but before all that, he was with the Blues, he was with the Avalanche, he was with the Blackhawks. Lindy Ruff has been around for a while, and you could list a number of these guys. Ahead. I mentioned the now coach for the New York Rangers, Mike Sullivan, Craig Berube. He's been on a few teams. He won a Stanley Cup with the Blues. The whole point I'm trying to make here is these guys will go places. Many of them will win. And then as soon as they stop winning, they're out. Just like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, we talked about it last week. What was the average coaching tenure in the NHL? It was like 2.3 years.
It's
Like
very short.
they just churn through, and it's a little bit wild to me that, that's the case, but it's the reality. It's not just the Blackhawks, it is NHL as a whole. And so I mean, to your point is, if you could have kept Anders Sorensen another year and then maybe a better pool next year, but what's to say if you have another just absolutely abysmal season next year that you're going to be a destination people want to go to?
Right. And I really don't think I could handle another year with Anders Sorensen. No offense to him personally, but the last three coaches we've had since Joel Quenneville was fired were all way in over their heads. Whether it was Jeremy Colleton, whether it was Luke Richardson, or whether it was Anders Sorensen. And obviously, you had Derek King as an interim for a little bit, but that was, pretty brief. But you can't go through that. He's going to be on the coaching staff. That's fine. But I don't want him to be the head coach again for another year. I just don't. Because you saw last year some improvement in some areas, I think, offensively, which is why I'm okay with him sticking around. At first, I kind of wasn't, but then I thought about it. I'm like, okay, I guess it's fine. Would it have been my first personal choice? No, but whatever. But, you know, I felt like, and maybe this is a meatball take on my end, there just wasn't, again, this is going to sound really meatball, but there wasn't the fire behind the bench there were certain situations where Bedard was getting tossed by a rag doll, or something was, whether there was a bad penalty or a violent hit by another team, where you see veteran coaches retaliate and make it heard. You didn't see that. You didn't see that from behind the bench. And maybe it's because Anders Sorensen is new to the NHL. He was an interim. He probably knew he was an interim. I don't know, but you would think a guy trying to play for a job maybe would show a bit more fire, I guess. Again, it's a super meatball take, but long story short, I did not want him to be a coach for another year. I just didn't. Not a head coach, at least.
Oh, completely agree. Completely agree. Um, but a good friend of mine is a big Red Wings fan and a big hockey guy. And I texted him um, the other day and I was like, hey, what are your thoughts on Jeff Blashill? And his quote, I didn't really think he helped any of the young players develop well, and he overplays the vets. Kind of failed the team, in my opinion.
Yes. And I think we have to look at this from both perspectives. So those are valid criticisms, and I know other Red Wings fans personally that might say the same thing. What I hope is one, he's learned, and two, he has a bit more of a clear direction because I feel like with his time in Detroit, Detroit was in a very weird time when he first got there. It was the end of their last era. I mean, really, the last era had already ended, but they were just kind of lying in limbo for a few years. And then you started a rebuild. So I feel like there is a very clear-cut plan here. And, maybe others will disagree. Maybe other Red Wings fans will say, no, there was a clear plan. This is me looking from the outside. But when you look at his tenure in Detroit, he was there for a number of years. He got there in 15-16. He made the playoffs that year. They lost in the first round. Hadn't been back to the playoffs since. He was there until 2022. So if you look at where they were in 15-16, like I said, the real run that they had, the team that they had, that ended a few years ago. But there were still remnants enough from that team where they were competitive and they were still trying to be competitive. That year they won 41 games, they had 93 points. They were third in the Atlantic. They were probably, I don't know what seed they were. It doesn't list here, but they were probably a lower seed. But either way, they made the playoffs. But I mean, you remember the mid 2010s for the Red Wings. They were just
Hmm.
trying to keep that playoff streak alive, and they were just
Yep.
bringing in a bunch of old guys.
Yeah. I mean, that streak was important to them.
Yeah. I mean, they were the model franchise for so long. But really, I think their true dominance ended probably around 2010. Because if you think 2010, I think they've only won like one or two playoff series. And then they were truly never the same when we beat them in game seven in 2013. I mean, towards the end, it was a bunch of first round exits, and everybody knew who watched the Red Wings, everybody knew they weren't good enough to win a cup at that point. And you look at some of the guys that had been around a long time that Jeff Blashill did coach, like Henrik Zetterberg. Henrik Zetterberg was at the end of his career when Blashill was there. I think Datsuk was just leaving in the mid 2010s. So that was on its way out. And they were just lying in limbo for a few years. With that said, he has to be good at developing because you are going to have a ton of assets to develop. Tons of them. That's going to be crucial.
Yeah. I texted a friend, another friend asked me, he's like, what are your thoughts here? And I said, it's not what I hoped for. I'm not excited, but I'm just gonna sit back and wait, see what happens. And what else can I really do?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have a temper tantrum or anything, but I'm not very excited.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I'm not excited, but am I mad at them? Not necessarily because of the reasons we talked about earlier.
It was such a secretive process. I have no idea what the realistic options were. Maybe Blasha was the best option that was actually a viable option for them. I don't
Yeah.
know. So it's the unknown. It's hard to say. I mean, when the Bears hired Ben Johnson, it was very obvious who they were interviewing and who was in the running. And we knew our options were. And now we're like, I don't know. I mean, we got this guy and we don't love him, but we don't know what else was a possibility, like a realistic possibility.
Right. And like I said before, guys that whether they were a possibility or not, you don't see the fit. Like I'm mentioning Pete Laviolette or freaking Tortorella. Like it's like, okay, those guys are not going to be options, obviously. And the Bears thing, they interviewed a ton of candidates. Although I think all along Ben Johnson was the guy. And it's a different dynamic in the NFL. It really, really is. Because sure, you do see coaches who win in one place go to another. We saw it with Andy Reid. He was very successful in Philly, and then he was able to go to Kansas City and be even better. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. And I mean, even Mike McCarthy, he didn't win it all in Dallas. But you know what? He still won games in Dallas and brought them to the playoffs. But like I said, with the NHL, it's a lot less forgiving. There's a lot more churn. And you see so much more often these guys winning either multiple championships in multiple markets or at least them being regularly relevant. The NFL, you have your circle of guys that are with a team for a long time because they keep winning. You have your Mike Tomlins, your John Harbaughs, and let's face it, Andy Reid's going to be around a long time in Kansas City. You had Bill Belichick. And then you have a lot of coaches where they get a chance, maybe they do well, then they get another chance somewhere else, and you kind of see where it goes from there. And then you get the guys, a lot of them that are just one and dones. And you get those in the NHL too, but it's just a different dynamic.
I'm going through some of the athletics comments, like the comments on the athletic article about the hire of Jeff Blashill, and some of my favorites. I'm whelmed. Uh, it's like they went shopping in the newly stocked bread aisle at the grocery store and bought the same bag of Wonder Bread they got the last time. Uh,
I don't know if I agree with that though. None of the coaches since Quenneville had any NHL experience coaching, being a head coach. None of them. This guy
this,
does.
this feels like Rick Renteria before Joe Madden.
But again, he was never a manager before. Again, maybe the results are the same, but I'm just saying. I don't think all these analogies are that spot on.
Uh, I just like the one. I'm whelmed.
Now that's a good one. That's because that's pretty accurate.
So I mean, we'll see. I'm hearing a lot of praise for the one assistant coach he brought over
Yes,
from
the
was the
Rangers.
Rangers. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm hearing good things on that, and that he's going to be a big plus for some of these younger players. So that's good.
That's good. That is good. So yeah, you just hope for the best here. I'm just ready to get to free agency. It doesn't
E-
sound like Mitch Marner's gonna happen.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
think
so.
it's going to be very heavy with draft assets. You're going to keep drafting guys. Maybe you make a trade, you make a deal. Maybe you do what you've done over the past few years and you hunt around with teams that need to clear cap, where you pick up a solid, good player for nothing because the team just needs to shed some cap. I don't know yet what those teams are, what those players could be, but I mean, look at even going back to the last regime when you were able to acquire Marc-Andre Fleury. And then a few years ago when you got Taylor Hall, you got those guys for nothing because they were just salary dumps. So I bet there's going to be a little salary dump hunting around in this offseason again.
Yeah, I mean they've got the cap space, so they can do pretty much whatever they want. Um, I mean they've got like 30 something million dollars of cap space. Um, so it'll be it'll be interesting to see how they move this. And I think we're like what a month away from free agency.
Yeah, it's sometime in June, I believe. I just wonder too, how are you going to handle goaltending going forward? Are you going to give Spencer Knight another full year to look at what you have with him? Do you think that you do have something with some of your young guys in the system that are coming soon? Um, I don't know. I think that's kind of a mystery. I feel like they're going to give Spencer Knight another go at this. Obviously, they signed the one veteran goaltender last year that didn't play a single game because of the injury, the guy that used to be on the Jets. So will they pick up a veteran goaltender? I would not be surprised if they did, but I
I
don't know.
mean,
We'll see.
you've got some players in your pipeline, but I don't know how close they are. Spencer Knight, I think it's silly to not give him the opportunity.
Hmm.
Um, but I would imagine that they're going to bring in another veteran.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to have one in there. And it is kind of an interesting situation because last year you got rid of Peter Mrazek, and Peter Mrazek did his job and his time was up. So, there was no surprise there, right? Like nobody was shocked by that. I even called it like it's like okay, it's time to I'm thankful for Peter Mrazek for what he did, but his time ran out. You were seeing what you had in Spencer Knight. The other question is, along with Spencer Knight, it's Arvid Soderblom because last season he played better than the year before, noticeably better. The stats still aren't great. The save percentage is 898, but considering how many shots he faced, like he had some pretty big games last year. I still have my doubts he's going to be a future regular goaltender in the NHL. So my question is, do you keep seeing what you have there or do you replace him?
I I'd probably replace him, but I mean, again, I don't know what happens, in practices or how they feel. I'm probably moving on.
Is the ceiling high enough to be worth evaluating? I just don't know. I feel like he's one of those, if I'm going to make a baseball analogy, he's one of those 4A guys where you're like, he's not a regular in this league, but if you need him to step in from time to time, he can. But what is he going to do? Go between Rockford and Chicago after he spent his last 2 years primarily with Chicago? So if they said, you know what, we're going to move on, we're either going to bring in a veteran or see somebody else from our pipeline, I'm not going to be upset. I think we have a pretty solid sample size of Arvid Soderblom. He can give you a good game, but I don't think he's going to be consistently an NHL goalie you want on a team that's trying to take another step.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Comesso's probably getting close. Um, you have uh Adam, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Gajan, the guy they drafted in 2023. He's a guy that they were very high on. He's probably still a little bit away. I You had Brossois who you signed, but um,
That's the guy who
Soderblom,
didn't play last
yeah,
year
he didn't
because of
play at
the.
all.
Yeah.
Soderblom, I just, I don't think he's got a number one goalie,
No.
his ability. Um, I do like Spencer Knight. I really do. I think is he elite? I don't know, but at worst, I think he's a totally viable option to last until work through your pipeline.
Also, speaking of Spencer Knight, Seth Jones is probably going to be playing in the Cup Finals.
I mean, like that seemed like a win-win trade.
Yeah, it is what it is. Again, he wasn't happy here. They weren't happy with him. That's just how it goes. But
Yeah, I mean, he went somewhere and his team is doing well, and you got a goalie,
and a
and
pick.
a pick, and you got rid of a player that was, very unhappy, vocally unhappy, and a storm cloud in the locker room.
Yep.
So with it, that's sometimes getting rid of that, especially with a club full of really young players, like that could be a benefit in its own. So I mean, I really do look at this as that, uh, this might have been a win-win.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, hey, with goalies like Spencer Knight, sometimes you just have to take a chance on a kid. Goalies are weird because they can develop late. I mean, we've seen that happen so often with the Blackhawks. You remember what a late bloomer Corey Crawford was?
Yeah, yeah. I
They
mean,
don't all come in at 22, 23 and end up being great, but I don't
so
know. We'll see.
yeah. Um, what's the date of the NHL draft?
I haven't even looked yet.
Bu- 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 bu-
When you're a Blackhawks fan, the date you always look forward to the most is the freaking lottery day.
Yeah, we've gone through that already. So it starts on Friday, June 27th. So we're like a month away from that.
Yeah, we're a ways away.
And then it looks like the free agency starts right after the draft that is over. So um the draft is the 27th, 28th, and free agency starts July 1st. So yeah, I mean it's gonna come quick.
Hmm.
So it is gonna be here quick. Where do you want to go? Bears, Cubs, Sox?
Reese McGuire.
What's funny is I made a note to myself, and I was like, all right, with Amaya getting injured, um, what's how's that going to change the dynamic of the team and arguably the best catching duo in baseball? And Reese McGuire comes in there and hits 2 home runs in his debut, and then I'm just like, cross that one off my list.
Well, I just couldn't believe it. This is insane. It's the third Cub ever to make his debut and hit 2 home runs.
Yeah, yep. It's wild. I mean, obviously this is not uh, going to be a continuation like this, but that's a really nice way to start.
It is, but you gotta admit, man, that injury to Amaya really sucks.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I'm hoping for the best. I think they're putting him on the 10-day, and we'll
It's
see from there.
obliques, man. What is it with this team in
I
obliques?
know, right?
And those are tricky. That involves your swing. And Miguel Amaya is an offensive catcher. Because here's where the concern comes in is Carson Kelly has been unreal, but we know it's not going to last. It's already regressing a little bit. Not that he's been completely, I mean, he had a home run the other day, but he wasn't going to be hitting at that rate this whole time. And Reese McGuire's certainly not going to be hitting 2 home runs a game, that's for sure. You just hope that Carson Kelly and Reese McGuire can do just enough to help. But the thing with Amaya is that is still a younger player who has had a plus bat for a year now, was a top prospect as a hitting catcher. Technically, Reese McGuire was too, but that was a while ago. But that was a guy you felt more consistent about being an offensive force. You just, I'm not asking Carson Kelly or Reese McGuire to be Johnny Bench, but you hope that they can at least give you enough value in their position to make a difference. So far, they have, and then some. You just hope it sustains. It won't sustain at the same rate, but you hope it sustains enough to be, noticeable.
Yeah, and again, obliques are tricky and obliques are a pain in the ass, and you just hope that this wasn't a bad one like we've seen with Seiya Suzuki in the past, that he's quick to come back. That's the hope. That's really the hope.
Yeah.
Because
And
this team can't afford. I mean, they've been unreal with these comebacks and things, but we can't rely on scoring 11 runs a game to win games consistently,
yeah,
especially with the
so,
injuries.
first starting with the oblique thing, Ian Happ had the oblique. And boy, you can tell he's still not 100% out there. You can just see it. He usually mashes in Cincinnati. Everything still looks a step slow or too far behind. He didn't have rehab, so he was out for, what was it, 2 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks around there. Then he came back, and you can still tell that he's not 100% back in the groove of things. And then you look at the rotation. I think we're starting to see a little bit of the regression. And listen, I understand that it's always tough pitching at Great American Ballpark. Seems like whenever the Cubs go there, their starting pitcher gets rocked. But was Colin Ray going to be a sub 3 ERA pitcher the whole season? No. Was Matthew Boyd going to continue at the rate he was doing? Not saying he can't still be good or Colin Ray still can't be solid, but they're going to hit some rough patches. Like, we know who Colin Ray is. We know he's not going to be a 3.01 ERA pitcher at the end of the year, most likely. It's going to be around 4. So you're going to see a little bit of that regression, and without Shota and without Steele, it after a while it starts to get a little challenging, and I think we saw a bit of that this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Boyd and Ray, uh, they were great so far and what we've gotten from them, and it wasn't going to continue that way. But I'm curious to see in the next few weeks how much of is just regression versus how much of it is Great American Ballpark, and we'll start to see. And I know today we got some good news about Shota, and hopefully he can be back soon because this pitching has been a little bit brutal, and Ben Brown has not been great.
No, this is tough because the stuff is there, man. And when he does find a groove, it seems like it's always like innings 2 through 4, pitches 30 through 70. He finds this groove. And you see the swing and miss. You see the high 90s fastball. You see the breaking ball. And when it is commanded well, it's devastating. But when he can't command and he's walking guys, and then he has to desperately throw strikes, that is when those strikes get pounded. And the consistency game by game just isn't there. And usually when you talk about inconsistency, you're saying, oh, he's got a great start, he's got a bad start. The inconsistency is in the games themselves. Horrible innings, dominant innings. But the inconsistency has led to an ERA over 6. And listen, you can have 4 great innings and 1 really bad one, or 4 great innings and 2 really bad ones. Either or. Those are enough to be a difference in a game. The Cubs have answered with their offense in most of those games, but it makes it trickier, and you can't live by that continually. Unfortunately, your pitching is so banged up where unless you switch out Chris Flexen, who else are you going with? If you want him out of the rotation, who are you replacing him with right now?
I mean, Flexen is your answer. I mean, we made this joke, so last week or the week before, but if you go through what's available in Iowa,
Ugh.
Kenta Maeda is one of your better options, and you're like, I don't. That's not a good option. Uh, so there are not a lot of good options, and we're still a good ways away from the trade deadline. So like, the hope is Shota comes back soon because this team desperately needs to add a frontline starter, and they're gonna have to pay. And you're gonna have to give up somebody. And I wonder if they were trying to showcase Ballesteros to be that guy because he's a positionless guy. He's a DH.
Yeah, he's not ready to catch, obviously. That makes things a little difficult. But one thing I can say going back to one of your points, you mentioned Kenta Maeda. Right now, I can confidently say he's no longer an MLB pitcher.
Oh, agree. 100% agree. But I'm just saying is you look at what's a you could bring up from Iowa and that's
There ain't
that is
much.
there's not a lot of options.
It's rough. Because I know there's a lot of people calling out for Ben Brown to be removed, and I get it. But again, unless it's Chris Flexen, that's it. That's your option. If you had a healthy rotation, it's a different story. Because if somebody gets healthy, like Shota comes back, because we know Justin Steele ain't coming back, and I don't know about Javier Assad, man. I don't think we're going to see him for a long time.
Who is that? I'm sorry.
Javier Assad.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's not
That's not
uh
that's not even on the radar right now.
yeah.
So if Shota comes back, I mean, you got to keep Cade Horton up here.
Cade Horton, he's got to be here.
And he's a young pitcher learning. He's going through some growing pains. We've seen more good than bad. But I'd rather have him stick in the rotation at this point over Ben Brown. And I've been a Ben Brown advocate, and I still believe he could be something in this league. But right now, it's hard to throw him out there every 5 days.
I think he's gonna be a bullpen guy.
Could be. Could be.
Um,
Albert Alzolay type
yeah.
story arc.
But it's just tough because uh, there's not a lot of options here, and you know, I don't know who you're gonna pry away early. You're gonna be paying through the nose to get a starting pitcher this early, and you're gonna get a starting pitcher. If you do, it's gonna be from a really shitty team like the Rockies. Um, so I don't know, man.
If you're adding anything legit, it's not going to be till near the deadline. And, one guy I wrote about the other day was Rasmussen from the Rays. I think that would be a very good addition to this team. But the Rays aren't going to trade him right away. Well, it is the Rays. They do make deals more often than not, but most likely I think they'd wait because they're not quite out of the playoff race yet. So I think there's still a chance that they might go out and get him, but there might not be. We'll see. Other teams are going to be looking at Drew Rasmussen as well. There's going to be teams like the Dodgers and the Phillies and the Mets and other contenders calling too. So, there's going to be a lot of factors that go into it. But right now, to your point, you're just picking up arms. Like any additional, that's why they signed Kenta Maeda. You're just getting guys that have a pulse.
I mean, honestly, it's you pick up guys and you know there could be a guy that's washed and but he finds this groove for a couple of months and you ride that hot hand.
Look at Drew Pomeranz.
Yeah, I mean, who was the guy that the White Sox had a couple years ago that was pitched for the Giants for a long time? I can't think of his name.
How many years ago? Like what
This
season?
isn't. This is just a few seasons ago.
A few. You said he pitched for the Giants?
He pitched for the Giants, um, when they faced the Cubs in the playoffs, and then
Oh, Johnny Cueto.
Johnny Cueto,
Johnny
yeah.
Cueto.
That I mean, look at that. That guy was washed, and then the White Sox just picked him up as a dregs,
He was pretty good for them.
and the wheels fell off at some point, but you rode that hot hand, and that's really, I mean, that's what you're looking for is find a guy that's cheap, had a good career at one point, and was washed, and you're like, can we find lightning in a bottle for a short amount of time? Because that's all you need is just buying yourself some time. The bat's good. Is just find some starts here and there and then get Shota healthy, get through the trade deadline, find somebody legitimate, and then see where you're going. You're just trying to stay afloat. You're in first place. The you're trying to stay there. If you can be there at the deadline, that's you can fix a lot of what ails you.
Yeah. You pick up as many arms as possible, something can work out. But like I said before, you can only go so long with relying on what you have right now. And I do think you're going to see some things shake up a little bit. The nice thing is that you were playing the Marlins for a few series, and no offense to the White Sox, you were playing the White Sox, so you're able to get away with some things. You went through that gauntlet of a schedule, but the time is going to come when you have to play the Cardinals, who just will not lose. And then you're going to have to play the Giants again, the Phillies again, the Mets again towards the end of the year. These division games are all big. You got to play the Brewers again. There's going to be tougher matchups again. Even next week, I think they're playing the Tigers. That's going to be insanely tough.
Yeah, the Tigers are tough. Tigers are tough.
Tariq
Um,
Skubal, man,
yeah,
might be the best pitcher in baseball.
yeah, you got the Rockies now, which you got to beat up on the Rockies. Like you've got to.
They're going to lose tomorrow when I'm there, and I'm going to be pelted with trash and rotten tomatoes and half drunken beers, and I'm going to be put in a stocking shamed.
Uh, then you get the Reds again, I mean, you won the series, but it was not a gimme by any stretch.
Well, the Reds, like I said before, are so Jekyll and Hyde. Like their overall offensive numbers, like in terms of runs per game, look good. They look good, but that has been the definition of a boomer bust team when it comes to scoring. Because they have a ton of games where they've scored a ton of runs. I think they also lead the league in getting shut out. Like all or nothing. And you just don't know which one is going to show up.
I remember, was it last year or the year before, you were saying that, man, I would love for the Cubs to have a guy like Ellie De La Cruz. And guess what? We got one
Peter Crow Armstrong.
who's, I'm gonna say, better than Ellie De La Cruz.
Bold. I mean, he's
Bold.
having a better season so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's PCA is having himself a season.
That Friday night game, he hits 2 home runs, including a grand slam off the foul pole. And he's going nuts. And the dugout's going nuts. And the 15 some odd K Cubs fans that show up to Great American Ballpark are going nuts. Like, we've been begging for a difference maker. And when he's on, he's a difference maker. He's got what, 14 home runs now?
Yeah. I mean, he has I mean, if he continues this pace for the whole season, he will 100% be getting MVP votes.
Yeah, because the offense has been there, the power's been there, the defense is there. You know what else is crazy? I think if you asked 90% of Cubs fans and they said, "Hey, how would you feel if PCA hit 15 home runs a year?" Well, hell yeah, I'd take that. He's got 14 right before Memorial Day.
Yeah. And his mom, you know who his mom is, right?
Yeah, the mom from Little Big League.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I did not put that together. Um, and then I saw that and I was like, oh, wait, I know who that mom is. I've seen her in a bunch of stuff.
She was in an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, which is one of my favorite shows. She plays Deborah's sister, who you only see in one episode, but yeah, that's PCA's mom.
Yeah.
Because when you look at her, you're like, oh yeah, I see the resemblance.
Yeah. Um, but that's hilarious. I didn't realize that that was the mom from Little Big League was his real mom.
Imagine one day she's sitting in the dugout and people are like, where's Craig Counsell? I don't know.
Uh, but yeah, PCA is having himself a season. And I love it. I love it. He's just so infectious and Kyle Tucker was a home run of a trade.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those trades is you don't give a shit what you gave up because you got yourself a stud. And
Mm-hmm.
look at how that impacts everybody else. It makes everybody else better. And you're seeing the night and day difference of what this offense looks like.
Yeah. And also a lot of credit to guys like Dansby Swanson, who's been on a tear recently, and even Matt Shaw, who just came back up. This the difference is very noticeable. You see the ball exploding off that bat. The numbers since returning look good, but keep in mind, if you've watched a lot of these games or at least seen the box scores, you'll see that he's lining out in a lot of these games too. Like he's hitting the ball hard. And you just hope it stays that way. Because if you get a good enough production from a young Matt Shaw that's showing promise, that is 10 billion times better than what you've been getting over there.
Oh, I mean, just his fielding alone is better than what you were getting over there.
Yeah, he can
Um,
pick it.
yeah. So whatever he gives you as a hitter is just gravy. And you look night and day difference. The Cubs last year finished the season right around league average in runs per game. And right now, they are number one in baseball.
Hmm.
A run and a half difference a game. That's significant. That is absolutely significant. Um, so they're number one in baseball in runs per game. They are uh, fourth in home runs. They are second in batting average. They are fourth in on base percentage. They are third in slugging. They are third in OPS. And what's really nice is if you look at runners left on base, they're 10th. So they're they're not, I mean, they're leaving guys on base, but not at the clip of some of the other teams that are right there with them. So they're getting those runs across.
Well, and every team will have stretches where they can't hit with runners in scoring position. We've seen the Cubs struggle with that at times, but also too, if you're getting a ton of base runners, then your odds of scoring runs are just going to go up regardless. You're
Oh
going to
yeah,
have more
absolutely.
opportunities to hit with runners in scoring position, and you're going to see more situational hitting executed by more players. So it's not like, oh, here we go. These guys are on again for this player or this player. You're seeing it happen with pretty much everybody up there. Now, when it comes to hitting with runners in scoring position, obviously there are guys that are better at it than others. One who's been really good at it is Nico Horner.
And what's nice is you look at walks. Cubs are fourth in walks. Strikeouts, they are they are well below the league average in strikeouts.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. Like San Diego has the least strikeouts. And
Helps when you have Luis Arise on that team.
yeah. But the Cubs are better than league average in strikeouts. Uh, yeah, obviously it's the Rockies. Um,
Don't say that before I see them at Wrigley tomorrow. We're talking about all this run scoring and all these good things, and tomorrow when they get shut out when I'm there, I am going to lose my mind.
uh, do you know what the Cubs team OPS plus is?
I don't know. What is it?
123.
Wow.
Number one is Yankees 129. Two is Dodgers 128. Um, and it helps those two teams because you have two absolute Hall of Fame, like elite, GOAT level power hitters on those teams. And the Cubs they're just raking. Love it. They're just absolutely raking.
Yeah, it's been fun. There's another big comment I want to make about what this team has done after they lose a really tough game. Remember Monday against the Marlins? That was a square kick in the dick.
Yeah. Yep.
Brutal. And then they come back and win 16 to 1. I get it, the Marlins are not good, but beating anybody 16 to 1, impressive.
Yeah. And this team, like, listen, I like that they're giving up so many runs that they're having to overcome these big deficits to win games. Not at all. I don't think any Cubs fan likes it.
No.
But the fact that this team does not quit. They're down 5 runs. Whatever. We got that. That's 1 inning. We can make that up in 1 inning. And they do. It's it's incredible. And I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I feel like the ability to come back and score runs in spurts like that is a good sign of the ability to compete in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's that like never say die attitude, the we never quit slogan that we saw so much of in 2016. I can guarantee you right now that a year ago, they would have gotten swept. They would have rolled over and died as soon as they lost the lead today in the
Yeah.
first inning.
Yep.
They would have rolled over and died in Friday's game when they were down 4-0 and 6-2. Maybe not in the second half. The second half is when they started to show signs of life with the offense. But a year ago, right now, May 2024, they would have rolled over and died. It feels almost guaranteed they would have. Sure, they had their handful of comebacks, but not like this. Especially not in May last year. I mean, remember May and June how dead this team looked?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a different feel here. And it's funny is because there's huge gaping problem like holes of problems on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Like absolutely like you could drive a semi through them. But the tone of this team is different. It's really different and that's that's huge.
Yeah.
And for a team that gives up a lot of runs, uh they give up quite a few runs, and their run differential is second in baseball.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, like I said before, I give credit to the guys like Ray and Boyd because they had pitched good for a while. It's just going to be hard for them to sustain that. And I think that if you get a healthy Shota back, and even if you bring in some other arm that might not be the guy before the deadline, you can help stabilize things a little bit. And hopefully, Boyd gets back on track a little bit and Ray can just keep you in games. That's kind of what you're looking for from a guy like Colin Ray realistically going forward. And I think there's something too to be said about how this team responds not only to bad losses, but when they fall behind or they give up runs. How many times do we see it where the Cubs give up runs in an inning and it's either they have a big lead and the other team closed the gap, the other team came back and tied it, or the other team came back and took the lead? We've seen plenty of times where the Cubs offense just answers right back. And that's what I hope we see fairly consistency throughout the entire year. That's what I'm hoping for. There's going to be
Yeah.
some downs, there's going to be some craters, there's going to be some very tough times. We're going to run into some ruts, some big ones, some ugly ones. But if you can do it more often than not, that's the key to winning.
Should we talk White Sox a little bit?
Sure.
Uh, there's signs of life on this team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna be honest, is as much crap as I talked about Chris Getz, I think he really does have a plan. I
I
don't,
think so too. He gets a vision. It's just trying to get more details on it.
yeah, I mean, there's, you feel like you're like, okay, I see that there's, there's direction. I mean, how much better are they than last year? It's not that hard to be better than last year. They were an embarrassment last year, and the results aren't always there. But you don't have a lot to work with. Like Chris Getz has turned kind of mush into something that's hasn't been terrible. Like when they're losing, but remember last year they just found themselves like absolutely embarrassing ways to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And today you had the throw to first base where you had Lenine Sosa. You had a second baseman playing first base, and he catches a ball, and he's a good 2.5, 3 feet from the bag, and you're like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? Like that was a last year rearing its ugly head, but for the most part, like it's just been a bullpen has been very bad, and you don't have any good veteran bats that are keeping you in games. Your starting pitching has been good, and you've gotten boosts from some young hitters. And that the bullpen's brutal, but it's not a brutal bullpen. You're like, okay, you can fix that, but a team that just loses by embarrassing methods every day, like last year, that's tougher to fix. Um, and the one question, I guess the couple questions I have that I would really like to be a fly on the wall in Chris Getz's office is,
Buzz, buzz.
why did they send Elko down? And he wasn't in the minor lineup today, so I'm wondering he's coming back right away after today. And when is Teal coming up?
Yeah, I think we'll see Teal fairly soon, sooner than later. I mean, he's been on fire so far in the minors. I think that he is on the verge. I know a lot of people are disappointed about Tim Elko, and I do think it would have been nice for them to see a bit more, but maybe they will see more coming here soon. I think the big news was Andrew Vaughn getting sent down.
It's big news, but it's unsurprising news. It should have happened a while ago.
Right. It's big news because they truly realized like we can't just keep giving him a pass. He's been wretched this year.
Yeah, and somebody posted, uh, let's take a look at what Andrew Vaughn is doing in Charlotte. Bottom of the first. Brooks Baldwin homers on a fly ball to center field. 1-0 Charlotte. Colston Montgomery homers on a fly ball to left center. 2-0 Charlotte. Andrew Vaughn grounds out to shortstop Cody Freeman.
Yeah. Well.
Uh,
Well, and speaking of Colson Montgomery, it looks like ever since he went down to the development league, he's looking a little better since coming back.
you know, baseball is it's a really, really tough sport. It's a really tough sport to play when you have, somebody can go in the Hall of Fame for getting a hit 30% of the time.
Hmm.
Like it's a really tough sport and it's a lot of grind and it's a lot of mental labor and I really think that he just needed a complete reset. Just get back to fundamentals, not actually playing baseball, fielding ground balls, taking batting practice, watching some film, just, doing activities, but not playing baseball. And I honestly think on Getz's part that was a little bit of a Hail Mary, but it it's knock on wood, uh it seems to be having a positive effect.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, so far, I think he's tweaked a few things, looks like more of a confident hitter. So that's something to obviously keep an eye on. I mean, good for him if he can make this work out. And it's never really been done before, but who's to say it will or will not work if it hasn't really been done before?
I mean, we were at the point where I think everybody wrote Colston Montgomery off as no longer in the White Sox future.
Right.
And so, even if he's in that conversation again, regardless of what happens, you have to look at that as a positive for this organization that he's at least back in the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and it's surprising that they moved Elko down so quick. Was he doing great? No, but
Showing some pop.
he's shown some pop, and that's on a team that doesn't have a lot of pop. That's that's huge. Like you gotta he gotta have some home runs. Um, you look at the White Sox, uh, team's hitting stats, and they just they're not a good hitting team. Where are they on home runs? Um,
Miguel Vargas is basically their source of power.
yeah, they're the only teams that have less home runs than them are the Pirates and the Royals.
Hmm.
They have less than the Rockies. Where would you say out of 30 MLB teams, what do you think they rank in on base percentage?
29th.
They are 28th.
Okay, close.
Um, and so the White Sox are 287, and the Rangers and Rockies are tied last at 286. So that could easily switch tomorrow.
Rangers are mid again, man.
What do you think the White Sox are in OPS as a team?
29th. I'm going to say 29th again.
30th.
Hmm.
By a good amount too. Like their team OPS is 617.
Hmm. Yeah, well, you look at the hitters they have right there. Edgar Caro is hitting pretty well. He was 3 for 4 today. Chase Mydroth, he keeps hitting. He's 305, but he's not a power hitter. And I don't think Caro has shown as much power, but he's hitting. Luis Robert isn't hitting anything. That's a guy that's supposed to give you some power. You just got Andrew Benintendi back, but he's been out for a while. You look at the rest of the lineup, it's like, okay, maybe Michael A. Taylor will run into one every now and then, but outside that, you're really just not getting much power from this group.
That's why the Elko thing really shocked me because you have a guy that legit home run power. Eh,
Yeah.
My draw when he came up, like had some, he ran into some pop early on, and we knew that wasn't going to continue because that's not who he is. Um, but that bat has been, I mean, he's a get on base guy. He's a hitter. Just not a power hitter. But you need some pop in that lineup, and Elko gives you that. So I would be shocked if he's not back very soon. And Teal, what else can he do in the minors? Like bring him up. There's at bats to be had, meaningful at bats. Get those guys here.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's ready to see what you got.
Um, and I don't know if you saw the interview. It was with the team translator, but it was with Luis Robert. Not sure if you saw that.
No.
Um, they asked him, if he had being traded on his mind, and he basically said, "The way I'm hitting, who's going to trade for me?"
Oh, I did see that. I did see that quote. Okay, I
Oh
wasn't sure you were referencing that.
yeah,
Uh,
that's brutal, man. That like the mentality that he's struggling, man, and that's I was texting a little bit yesterday with Gary about it. It's like I I think I think a trade is a good thing for him. Get him on a team that has some veteran leadership that he can like lean on, change of scenery, change of voice in his ear. The guy's got talent. You're not going to get a return if you're the White Sox, but you at least get that salary off your books, which is Jerry would love. But for him, I think it's just get that change of scenery. That's
yeah.
we saw what a good thing that did for Montgomery. Why can't that be something for Luis Robert?
Yeah, I just feel like he's not mentally there. It feels like he's been checked out since the beginning of last year. He had the big year in 2023. They lost 100 games that year, but he had that all-star season. And then when they went full rebuild and truly tried to lose every game possible, that's when he seemed to just fall off.
Yeah, I just I feel for him. I mean, uh, I feel for him. It just he is just going through it, and it's like he's down on him. He's clearly down on himself.
Hmm.
And it's one thing if you can see something in your mechanics, like, yeah, hey, I know my swing is a little wonky right now. I need to work on it. You see something like he thinks he's doing the work, and he thinks he's swinging the bat well, and just not there. And it's um I I mean, would somebody trade for him? I think it's a possibility because just defensively and stolen bases alone,
Yes.
that's worth something.
Oh
You
yeah, I think teams will want him. They might not pay premium price like they would if he was playing like a few years ago, but there will be demand out there.
I just don't know like what you're going to get for him. Uh, so it's looking at a stat quick. In the month of May, only three players have a higher average exit velocity above Luis Robert Jr., and that's Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, and Bobby Witt Jr.
Hmm.
Um, but again, the just the stats aren't there. Like, you can say, uh, that he's, uh, hitting the ball hard, but if I mean, he's a plus WAR player, but he's a barely. It's 0.1 B WAR.
Yeah.
Um, and the stats aren't there. His last 5 games, 1 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 3, 1 for 4, 2 for 4. 0 home runs, 1 RBI, 5 strikeouts versus 0 walks, 1 stolen base. Like, just the results aren't there. It's really sad. I feel for him, and I would love for him. Not it would suck for the White Sox to see him go somewhere and just become the guy he's supposed to be. Like that would be a kick in the ding ding. But for him, like I would love to see him go somewhere and just find the groove and and start playing like the guy that we expected him to be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I don't know. Um, so and there was something I wanted to ask you about. Where da, da, da. Um,
Have I tried the new milkshake? No, I have not.
um, all right. Two former Chicago professional baseball players are having really good bounce back seasons. Yoan Moncada and Javi Baez.
Mm-hmm.
Both came from, have multiple just horrid seasons. Which one is more likely to be real and which one's more likely to be a mirage?
Well, Baez is a former All-Star. He was nearly an MVP. He was a postseason hero, and he's on a really, really good team. Yoel Moncada, he's on a bad team. He's had his moments. He was very good in 2019. I don't know, though, if his health is going to hold up. I'm kind of waiting for him to go back on the injured list because that just seems to happen. So my bet right now would be Javi. I mean, we know how good Javi is when he hits a ceiling.
I mean, the thing for me is, uh, I mean, the Tigers were a better team when there was no Javi last year. They
But
were
look at
better.
him now.
And, uh, but he's playing very well this year. And Moncada is on a bad team without protection around him, really.
Hmm.
Javi's on a very good team. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I chalk a lot of the Moncada issues to injury,
Yes.
and he seems to be healthy. So if he um, can stay healthy, that's a giant
Big
if
if.
in
Big
bold
if.
flashing lights. If he stay, I think he will have a better season than Javi Baez. Javi's already, sliding back a little bit. We've seen some regression lately. Um, and he's batting the bottom of the order now. I It's weird. Javi's weird because I think moving him to center field helped him.
Gave him a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, he's a guy that's it's confidence. He is very much you know boosted by confidence, and so man, it's tough. I don't think either one is legit on a comeback because it's tough for me to overlook the last several years of both players being not good.
I hear that.
It's so I'm happy that both are playing well. I just don't know. I don't think either one is super legit. Like this is who they are. I think they're both having a nice run. I'm gonna say Yoan Moncada. Like I said,
Okay.
and I could be dead wrong, and we could see him just fall flat on his face the rest of the season. I just think a lot of that was injury. I mean, you look back, he got COVID, and suddenly that power just bottomed out after he
Hmm.
returned from COVID. And then he just dealt with injury after injury after injury. And just Javi, I don't know, man. He just like that hole in his swing got bigger. And, he did all right when he got traded to the Mets, which I'm saying we won that trade.
Right now, it's looking pretty good. Yes.
Um, but then he signs that big contract, uh, and it just some tough play. Um, I don't know. I'm happy for both. I'm hoping both have bounce back and just become and make me eat crow, I'm more than happy to eat it. I'm just gonna say I think Moncada is the more real one right now.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah, I could be dead wrong. And both guys could fall flat on their face. Both guys could continue this run. My crystal ball isn't polished, so I don't know, but I
Your
I
crystal ball's a Greedo head.
uh I just, there was a reason that I I was, you know, not adamantly, but I would have been perfectly fine had the Cubs made a run at getting Yoan Moncada.
I know a lot of people were, and maybe that would have been a decent move to make considering the holes you've had at third base. I just pray that Matt Shaw turns into the real deal.
Yeah, and I think the long-term floor of Matt Shaw is is pretty high. I mean, I think his floor is like an average third base starter in baseball. I think that's the floor,
Hmm.
which is a really good floor, but the potential is actually pretty darn high.
Hmm.
And it's just going to be where he falls on that. And, um, some, if he gets some luck at the plate a little bit, uh, some of those hard hit balls, um, turn into hits. I'm hoping you see a good run on his future.
Me too.
Um, you want to wrap this up with Little Bears?
Sure.
So not a ton going on. We talked last week a lot about the Caleb Williams story.
Hmm.
I'm not a fan of the Bears not parading him out there and making him own it. They're making it into a bigger story than it needs to be. Just put him out there and be like, listen, you know, uh, just stay aside. Otherwise, now Chicago, like this is that dead part of the season. The draft is done, free agency's done. You know, like we're not going to see training camp for like 6 weeks. Like what? Like there's nothing else going on except people are going to run with this stupid story and like get out in front of it. Ben Johnson, I think, absolutely crushed the comments about it.
I agree. I
Like,
agree he did.
could have not have asked for a better response. If those that didn't hear it, he basically said, he's like, I don't know what happened here. This is my first year. I've been here 4 months. I don't know what happened last year. But, when they say those things about this being a place where quarterbacks die, it's good. I embrace it. We're going to change that. And
Hmm.
that's what you want to hear. And I would like to see Caleb Williams come out and be like, hey, listen, I going into this, I didn't know a lot about the organization. I saw the history at quarterback play, and um, you know, my my team and I really wanted to make sure I hit up, got the best place I could because I want to, do good things in this league. And everything changed when I came to Hallis Hall and I met the front office and the ownership, and things changed, and I'm happy to be here and we're going to win. Like that ends the story right there, I think.
I guess I just wonder does he not want to say anything? Do the Bears not want him to say anything? Are they trying to get the right words for him to say? I really, really don't know. I mean, I think maybe part of it is the Bears and Caleb Williams are just kind of letting this die out so they can move on. But, maybe he does come out and say, listen, here's what happened and we're moving on now. Just lay it out simply. And if anyone asks any follow-up questions, you just say it's done, it's over, you move on. Like, I don't think people are really owed an explanation, but it is going to continue to be talked about, though it kind of annoys me that it keeps getting brought up because I think we need to move on, but it's not going to just go away, even
No,
if I don't think
yeah.
it's should.
It like if this was training camp, like training camp was going on and we were getting ready for that first preseason game, I think this would have died away. But this hit at the perfect opportunity to have legs because there's nothing else going on. Like you had rookie mini camp, you had a voluntary like mini camp, and it was closed. It was mostly closed to everybody. You had a short bit of it that was open to media. Like there's not a lot. There's nothing going on. So that's all they have to talk about is they latched onto this stupid thing that I think most fans don't care about, but the beat writers are just keeping going. I think they did
Yeah.
themselves a disservice. And you're right. I have no idea if it's Caleb Williams. Like I don't want to talk about it. I'm not ready to talk about it. Or if it's the Bears trying to protect him and sending Ben Johnson out there. Um,
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, the media just won't let it go. And I think they're trying to force Caleb Williams to say something to have a story to work off of. But it's pretty clear they're going to keep hounding this.
yeah. And they're going to. I think that's why they just got to rip the Band-Aid off and just put him out there. He's going to
Maybe
be
they
out
do
there.
eventually. I don't
I mean,
know, but
he's gonna have to be out there at some point. So
yep.
it's don't get the don't starve the wild dogs is throw him a bone. And I loved Ben Johnson's comment about the tush push.
Oh yeah, I like explosive
I
plays.
like explosive plays. I mean, to be fair, if we could get a good tush push in, I the Bears have been it's been a while since they've been good at short yardage. I would like for any time it gets 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, you just know they're going to get it.
When have
Like
they ever
that's
been good at short yardage?
85.
Yeah, right.
I want I would love for that to be a thing. You're like, "Hey, it's 4th and 1. All right, we got this. We're going to tush push, get it, and then we can go throw an explosive play." Like
I agree.
I would love that. I think as long as it is a legal play, why wouldn't you try to capitalize on it? Because it's really hard to stop. Like, sure, teams have done it on occasion, but the success rate of the tush push is really high. Is
Philly wins every time when they do it. Like
Yeah,
it always works.
yeah, it is. Um, uh, it's just um, it's ridiculous. So the Philadelphia Eagles have a success rate of the tush push at around 92%.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like, can you imagine lining up on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and just 90+% of the time
It
getting it?
works.
Like,
Yeah.
like I don't care that it's not. I love explosive plays too, but I don't care. Like, get that in there. Get that in there. I mean, I don't think Caleb did he run any sneaks?
Not many,
I don't.
if any.
Yeah. So get out there. Get that in play. Hell, put Cole Kmet at center. Tush push with him if you don't want to put Caleb at risk. Put
Hmm.
Cole Kmet out there. Let's see what else. Joe Tooney signed a 2-year extension. I think everybody after that trade was, saw that in the horizon. Um, that so they got that done, and it gives them a little more flexibility. Because you're able to spread that money out, so you get some flexibility there. But
Yeah,
I
it's a
think,
good deal because your cap hit goes down from it now this year.
yeah. Um, so now you've got your 4 or 5 positions locked up for the next 3 years.
I saw another Nick Chubb nugget that some people theorize that he'll be in a Bears uniform by June. And
Yeah,
did
so
this deal
it's
maybe have something to do with it? I don't know. We'll see.
possibility. I mean, is it's good for them to sign him after June 1st. So I have a feeling that, you know, Nick Chubb will sign somewhere. I don't know what kind of money, but I've been watching those training videos of him. He's back up to squatting over 500 pounds. He looks really nimble and agile. Even if that guy is 85% of what he was,
I'll
that's
take it.
he was an elite back. 85%, that's that's good in my book.
I
I'm
agree.
still all on board. Is again, I'm not shitting on DeAndre Swift. I think there is opportunity for him to do things. We saw what he looked like when he got into space last year.
Going to the outside and actually getting some blocking, yes.
And just, put him at the slot, get him some screen passes, like get him into space. Like the guy can make things happen. It just I I don't love him running between the tackles.
No, he shouldn't be running between the tackles.
So it's but I like the fact that the Bears are getting that offensive line locked up because last year was a dismal year with that offensive line, but you didn't like they had so few snaps of their starting five together that you've got to get rapport there.
Right.
And listening to Joe Tooney talk, I would be, even though it's he's been here for what,
Few months.
like a few months, I would be shocked if he's not a captain.
Yeah, same, same. I think that's a guy you make a captain. Absolutely.
Is the way he talks about the attention to detail and the way that they're going about things. And this is a guy who is on his third head coach, and the first two are Bill Belichick, and the second one was Andy Reid.
Hmm.
He knows what it looks like to prep and to work hard and do things the right way. That's what he knows. Exactly what he knows. And he's coming in here, and there's a reason that they brought him in because that's what they need. Even if there's I mean, it's hard to press to find somebody a better player at his position, but even if there was somebody with a slightly maybe like younger or maybe even better, just but without that pedigree. That pedigree is really important to build the rapport at this offensive line.
Right.
I'm hoping that they get some health there, and you see the starting five out there week one. And for the Bears salary cap space sake, I hope Braxton Jones doesn't win that left tackle job.
That's true. That is a good point.
He's a
It
free
sounds like
agent.
he's going to have to go through a bit to rehab.
Yeah, I mean he won't. I don't think he's going to be ready by the start of training camp. I think he's coming back sometime in training camp. Um,
Which
so
does make a difference.
it makes a huge difference on a new coaching staff. Like
Yeah, exactly.
they're everybody's going in there without there's no starters right now. They intentionally left that depth chart blank. Everybody's going to be earning their spots. And
That's what he said.
some of these spots are going to be pretty easy to win. Like Caleb Williams is going to easily win that quarterback one spot. That's a given.
Nah,
Uh,
it's going to be Case Keenum. What are you talking about?
but that left tackle spot, that is a wide open one. Wide
Mm-hmm.
open.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and you know, uh this coaching staff, like that, they weren't involved in the pick of him, and he's coming in injured, so he's coming in behind the eight ball. It's he's got his work cut out for him to try to win this spot. Not saying he can't, but the he's got room cut out for him. And the difference between if him winning that job and going into free agency at the end of the year as a starting left tackle in the NFL, like that's just starting point, $20 million.
Yeah,
That's a whole lot of money.
that's a lot of money.
And you've got, you've had no cap issues for the last several years. You've turned that corner now. Now the cap is tightened up significantly. and you still haven't paid your quarterback yet. So you've got to start making hits on all those players and trying to bring in young guys at those expensive spots and work that way.
Yep.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nope, I've said my piece.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or Swerski Sports Podcast on Instagram.
You got to get used to saying that.
I know, right? With the underscores in between the words. Or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.